In a galaxy far beyond the comprehension of most humans, there exists an elite institution of learning, a place where the brightest minds from across the stars gather to expand their knowledge. It was not like any school or university on Earth. The walls shimmered with energies from 1,000 different planets, each more advanced than anything Earth could fathom. The students, tall and graceful, moved with a confidence that spoke of lives lived in perfect harmony with their worlds where chaos had long been tamed, where nature followed predictable rhythms. There was no concept of disasters as humans knew them, no hurricanes or earthquakes, no volcanic eruptions to disrupt the peace. These students came from planets where the laws of physics and nature had been understood, controlled, and in some cases, rewritten. At the front of the classroom stood the professor, an alien of such stature and renown that his very presence commanded respect. His knowledge of the universe's laws was unparalleled, his intellect towering over even the most gifted students. With a tone that resonated with authority, he gave out the assignment, something he deemed simple. Each student was to submit a report on the physical properties of their homeworlds. The task was meant to be straightforward, a basic examination of planetary conditions. And why wouldn't it be? After all, each student came from a world governed by rules they had mastered. Then there was John, a human exchange student, sitting quietly at the back of the class. He was different from the rest, shorter, bulkier, less refined in movement and thought. The others saw him as an oddity, a representative of a world they considered primitive and untamed. Earth was a place spoken of with curiosity, but also with a sense of superiority. To the alien students, it was a wild, dangerous planet, full of unpredictable forces that made it an anomaly in the universe. And John, well, he was the product of that chaos, a being who survived in a world where survival itself was a daily challenge. John didn't mind the stares, didn't care much for what the others thought of him. He had grown up on Earth, where the environment itself tested one's mettle. From the biting cold of winter to the sweltering heat of summer, from earthquakes shaking the ground to hurricanes tearing through the land, these were everyday realities for him. In fact, it had hardened him, made him tough in ways the others couldn't understand. So when the professor announced the assignment, John barely gave it a second thought. It was simple to him, just another task, one he could complete without breaking a sweat. He sat down at his desk, casually typing out a report that would have been nothing more than a high school assignment back on Earth. He wrote about Earth's atmosphere, how it could go from calm to violent in a matter of minutes, how winds could whip across the plains and tornadoes could form out of nowhere. He described the tectonic plates beneath the surface, shifting and grinding, causing earthquakes that could level cities in seconds. Volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, and monsoons, John detailed it all. And then there was gravity itself, a force that on Earth was stronger than on many other planets. He explained how it shaped life, how it made humans, and every creature on the planet, stronger, more resilient. To John, it was all second nature. He barely thought twice about the details he was writing. It was, after all, the world he had known his entire life. It wasn't extraordinary, it was just home. And so, with a few final taps on his console, he submitted the homework without a second thought. He didn't notice the puzzled glances of his classmates as they watched him so casually turn in an assignment that they, in all their advanced intellect, wouldn't have dared to approach with such nonchalance. For John, it was done, one more task checked off his list. Little did he know, the simplicity with which he saw his world was about to shake the very foundations of everything his alien classmates and their professor believed. What John had submitted as a routine homework assignment would soon prove to be anything but routine. As the alien students began to review John's homework, confusion spread like wildfire. At first, they couldn't believe what they were reading. How could a planet so chaotic exist, let alone sustain life? Earth, with its wild swings in weather, its brutal storms, and ground that shifted without warning, was completely foreign to them. These students came from worlds where order reigned supreme, planets with calm skies, stable ground, and ecosystems that functioned like well-oiled machines. On their worlds, nature had been tamed or had never needed taming in the first place. Their environments were predictable, safe, and controlled, almost serene compared to the violent dance of forces John had described. They exchanged glances, baffled by the idea of a planet where disasters weren't rare, but common. A place where creatures evolved in response to ever-present threats, adapting in real time to the chaos around them. Tornadoes? Earthquakes? Volcanoes? They had heard of these things in abstract, but to think of them as daily occurrences was unsettling. How could any intelligent life grow and thrive in such an environment? It was a mystery to them, an anomaly that didn't fit into the neat, orderly boxes they had constructed in their understanding of the universe. For some, John's description of Earth seemed almost too chaotic to be real. They questioned whether he had exaggerated the harshness of his planet, perhaps in an attempt to seem more impressive or dramatic. After all, why would a species willingly live in a place that constantly threatened their existence? Surely, no sentient being would choose such a dangerous world to call home. But as they dug deeper into his report, the undeniable truth began to set in. The numbers, the scientific details, the recorded data, it all pointed to one shocking conclusion: Earth's chaos was not a fluke. It was a fundamental aspect of the planet, one that shaped every living creature on it, including the humans. The professor, who had overseen countless reports from species all over the galaxy, found himself at a rare loss for words. This was not what he had expected. Earth's physics, the delicate balance between destruction and creation, had never been something he'd given much thought to. In his long career, he had always dealt with planets that behaved themselves, worlds that followed the rules. And yet, here was a student from a place where nature seemed to make its own rules, a planet that existed on the edge of unpredictability. How had he, an expert in planetary systems, overlooked this? He found himself stumped. The equations, the principles, the forces that governed John's world, none of it fit within the neat paradigms of habitable planets that he had studied and taught for decades. Earth was different, not in a way that suggested it was flawed, but in a way that hinted at something greater. It was as if John's report had opened a door to a new way of thinking, one where chaos didn't mean destruction, but opportunity. Earth, with all its turmoil, had given rise to a species that thrived despite the odds, or perhaps because of them. The professor had always believed that life needed stability to flourish, but here was proof that life could grow stronger when forced to face constant adversity. As the class settled into debate, the alien students found themselves split. Some couldn't reconcile the idea that a world as unruly as Earth could be anything but a disaster waiting to happen. To them, John's descriptions felt more like warnings than anything else. How could life evolve in such a state of perpetual crisis? How could anyone feel safe or build a society on a planet where the very ground might shift beneath them at any moment? It seemed illogical, impossible even. But others began to see something deeper in John's words. They realized that perhaps Earth's unpredictable nature was its greatest asset. The constant need to adapt, to survive in a place that was ever-changing, might have forged a species that was more resilient, more adaptable than any of them. Where they had lived in comfort, humans had lived in struggle, and that struggle had made them stronger in ways that the alien students could barely comprehend. The debate raged on, with some clinging to the belief that stability was the only path to progress, while others started to embrace the idea that perhaps they had been too quick to judge John and his planet. The professor couldn't shake the feeling that John's homework held far more significance than any of the students, or even he himself, had realized. Earth was no ordinary planet. Its chaotic nature, which had seemed like an anomaly at first glance, might just be a key to unlocking something much larger. What if the very unpredictability that had stumped his class was a strength, a rare resource that could be harnessed for the good of the galaxy? As much as it unsettled him, the professor knew he couldn't keep this discovery confined to the classroom. This was bigger than an assignment. After much deliberation, he made his decision. John's report needed to be seen by the Galactic Research Council. This group was at the forefront of planetary studies, tasked with solving the most complex climate and environmental challenges faced by the galaxy's diverse worlds. The professor submitted the work with a note, expressing his belief that Earth's chaotic systems might hold the answers to problems that had plagued entire planets for millennia. It was a bold move, one that could shift the very foundations of their understanding of planetary sustainability. Yet, the professor couldn't shake the feeling that Earth's turmoil, so often dismissed as primitive, had a hidden wisdom that the rest of the galaxy had overlooked for far too long. When the research group received the submission, they were intrigued but skeptical. After all, Earth had always been viewed as an oddity, a backwater planet with a primitive species struggling to keep pace with the rest of the galaxy. To think that this world, with its unpredictable climate and unstable land masses, could offer solutions to the galaxy's most pressing environmental issues seemed far-fetched. Yet, as they began to dig deeper into John's homework, something remarkable began to emerge. The data was undeniable. Earth's chaotic environment wasn't just a byproduct of nature's cruelty, it was a finely balanced system of adaptation and survival. Where other planets relied on stability, Earth thrived in the midst of turmoil. The wild swings in temperature, the shifting tectonic plates, the storms that could rage out of nowhere, all of these forces had shaped not just the planet but the creatures that lived on it. It wasn't just about survival, it was about resilience. The humans, and every living thing on Earth, had been forged in this crucible of chaos, and the planet had flourished in ways the researchers had never imagined possible. The more the research group analyzed, the more they realized how wrong they had been about Earth. They had dismissed it for its wild nature, but now they began to see that its volatility was a gift. The planet's natural systems, while seemingly unpredictable, operated in a way that created balance through destruction and renewal. The volcanic eruptions, once seen as catastrophic, were revealed to play a crucial role in the planet's atmospheric regulation. The shifting of tectonic plates, which caused devastating earthquakes, was key to replenishing essential nutrients in the soil. Even the planet's hurricanes and storms had their place, acting as natural cleansers for the oceans and air. The implications were staggering. What if these same principles could be applied to other worlds, ones struggling with stagnation or environmental collapse? What if the very chaos that defined Earth could help save planets on the brink of ecological disaster? The research group's skepticism faded as they realized the depth of the information they had in front of them. Earth, with all its wild and untamed forces, might just hold the key to stabilizing planets across the galaxy. As the research progressed, the group started to make connections between Earth's natural cycles and the problems they'd been trying to solve for years. On planets where ecological systems had begun to fail, the introduction of Earth's principles of balance through disruption could be the answer. Rather than maintaining perfect stability, they saw that embracing natural fluctuation might restore life to dying ecosystems. It wasn't about preventing disasters, but understanding that sometimes chaos could be a force for good, a way to renew and rebuild in ways previously unimagined. John's homework had unwittingly sparked a revolution in planetary science. His simple assignment was no longer just a curiosity about Earth's quirks. It had become the foundation for new methods of climate stabilization across the galaxy. The ripple effect of this discovery would be felt for years to come, as planets once thought beyond saving were given new hope. And it all stemmed from the chaos of a small, blue planet that had once been overlooked by the rest of the galaxy. As the alien students delved deeper into the intricacies of Earth, a new understanding began to settle in. What they had first regarded as an unpredictable, hostile world now appeared in a different light. They saw that living on Earth meant surviving constant challenges, from sudden storms to shifting tectonic plates. Each day on Earth wasn't just a routine existence, but a test of endurance. The idea of a world where nature could turn violent at any moment was foreign to them, yet it was the reality for humans. For the first time, the alien students began to grasp what it meant to live in an environment that forced you to adapt, constantly evolving just to survive. They imagined what it must be like to face the kind of threats John described. On their home planets, everything followed a set path, orderly, predictable, safe. Their lives were marked by stability, not survival. But for humans, stability was an illusion. Earth was a place where adaptation wasn't just an option, it was a necessity. This realization shook the students to their core. It became clear that Earth's environment had crafted a species capable of facing adversity head-on, capable of thriving in conditions that would send most others into chaos. The more they considered Earth's relentless forces, the more they realized that it had done more than shape humans physically, it had sharpened their minds as well. To live on a world where you couldn't take anything for granted meant you had to be prepared for anything. The alien students started to understand that it was Earth's very volatility that had produced a species so adaptable, so resilient. They began to reflect on their own experiences, their own lives on stable planets. They lived in comfort, never needing to face the kinds of challenges humans did. And in that comfort, they realized they had grown complacent. Their own strengths, their own abilities, now seemed less impressive in comparison. It was an uncomfortable thought, but one they couldn't escape. The more they learned about humans, the more they began to envy what John and his people had. Physical strength was easy to see. Earth's gravity alone had forged humans into beings with a toughness the alien students could hardly imagine. But there was something deeper, something even more valuable. The mental strength of humans, the ability to stay calm and think clearly in the midst of chaos, was a direct result of the world they lived in. They had to be strong not only in body but in mind, prepared to handle whatever Earth threw at them. That kind of resilience wasn't something that could be taught in a classroom or developed in a lab. It was earned through hardship and experience, in a way the alien students had never known. As they discussed what they had learned, their attitude toward John began to shift. No longer did they see him as the outsider, the strange human from a backward world. They started to see him for what he truly was, a product of Earth, a representative of a species that had been tempered by fire. The quiet student who had been dismissed for his perceived primitiveness now stood as a symbol of strength, a testament to what humans could endure. John hadn't changed, but their perception of him had. He was no longer just another face in the classroom. He was someone who had lived through what they couldn't even imagine. Respect for John grew, not just because of his homework but because of what it represented. It wasn't simply that Earth was dangerous. It was that humans had thrived in spite of that danger. The challenges that had once seemed so foreign now felt like markers of strength. And as they looked at John, they saw the embodiment of that strength, the result of a lifetime spent surviving a world where nothing was guaranteed. The alien students now understood that the resilience and adaptability that humans possessed were not just products of their environment but traits to be admired. And in that moment, their respect for John and his kind became something far deeper than they could have anticipated. Unbeknownst to John, his simple homework had ignited a revolution. The research group, once dismissive of Earth's chaotic nature, now couldn't stop poring over his data. They dissected every detail, from the erratic weather patterns to the shifting tectonic plates. What had once seemed like an environmental nightmare was now a source of inspiration. Earth's seemingly volatile systems, once considered primitive and unpredictable, began to offer solutions to some of the galaxy's most complex planetary issues. Planetary climates that had teetered on the edge of collapse were now being stabilized using the very principles John had outlined. Earth's capacity to adapt through constant change became the key. Researchers discovered that introducing controlled chaos, much like Earth's natural cycles, could rejuvenate ecosystems and reset dying planets. Where order had failed, disorder was restoring life. John's homework, submitted with no fanfare, was now shaping the future of worlds he had never even heard of. But as all this unfolded, John remained unaware. He continued attending class, sitting quietly, blending into the background as he always had. He had no idea that his casual assignment had rippled across the galaxy, nor did he realize the impact he was having on planets far beyond his reach. To him, it was just another task, another day. But to the galaxy, it was something far more profound. The changes were slow at first, subtle shifts in perception. Aliens who had once mocked humanity for its chaotic origins were now beginning to reevaluate everything they thought they knew. The hardships of Earth, long considered a mark of weakness, were now seen as sources of unimaginable strength. They had viewed humanity's struggles as evidence of inferiority, but now they saw it differently. Every storm, every earthquake, every volcanic eruption had forged a people who could withstand anything. The adaptability and resilience that humans possessed, once seen as mere survival mechanisms, were now recognized as something far greater. They were strengths that went beyond the physical, beyond the mental, traits that made humans uniquely capable in a universe where control was often fleeting. Across the galaxy, whispers spread about the humans. How had they survived on such a world? How had they thrived in conditions that would have broken so many others? And more importantly, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? As species reevaluated their views of humanity, they began to see the potential in what they had once dismissed. Perhaps humans weren't just survivors of a brutal world, they were the product of it, shaped in ways the galaxy had yet to fully understand. The implications of John's homework reached far beyond the classroom. In the grander scheme of the galaxy, it became clear that humanity was no longer the primitive species others had assumed. Their resilience, their ability to adapt to chaos, had given them an edge that the rest of the galaxy had overlooked. The very traits that had made Earth seem so dangerous now made its inhabitants some of the most formidable beings in existence. The final twist was not just that John's homework had helped solve planetary issues, but that it had forced the galaxy to reconsider what it meant to be strong, what it meant to be adaptable. In the end, the broader implications were undeniable. Humanity, shaped by the turbulence of their world, had emerged as more than just another species in the galactic community. They were a testament to the power of survival against all odds. And as the galaxy began to change its view, one thing became clear: Earth, with all its chaos, had forged something truly remarkable.